leaf tips, the ginkgo extract with a root in the bottle. This was my first time seeing just the leaves, and I did do a little bit of research, and it seems that the extract is usually taken from the bark and the leaves, and I think the root is kind of just there as a fun thing, you know. So anyway, so I was really interested to try this. I've heard of ginkgo for a very long time, and I've definitely taken supplements and things like that in the past as well. I did not know that ginkgo was this like huge tree, and it has like really broad leaves, sort of like a fig tree, which I thought was interesting. Of course, it is from China. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that I had the opportunity to actually go to MEILEAF in London a couple years ago, and something that I had always heard, but I didn't really understand until I got there, is that MEILEAF started out as a Chinese herbal company, as well as Chinese traditional medicine. I'm trying to remember the technical term for the type of practice, but I think it was reflexology and maybe acupuncture as well. Definitely acupuncture. And so anyway, so when you go, half of the building is set up as this Chinese traditional medicine thing with these Asian looking doctors and whatnot, and then the other half of the building is like a storefront where they serve tea and this sort of thing. So it really appears when you get there that most of what's going on is this Chinese medicine thing, and not necessarily tea. Tea happens, at least from my experience, tea was really kind of like just a side thing. It wasn't like the main thing. And it's also cool. It's on Hyde Street, which has this really cool outdoor mall shopping area and everything. So just in a really cool spot. And so I was really excited to get the herbal tea, or herbal tisane rather, from MEILEAF. Now, the tasting notes on this thing say, yeah, hints of marine water with medicinal herbs and lingering sweetness. I'm gonna say that's exactly what it is. It is definitely herbal for sure, and it is slightly sweet. Definitely a sugar sweetness. Yeah, I guess seawater, I think, is a decent description. The cold brew is pretty good. My question in doing these tastings for these herbs, and so far I think I've tried, I don't know, maybe 10 different herbs altogether. I know that Ginkgo Biloba is one of my favorites, Stonebreaker. I don't really remember what it tastes like, but I really like the medicinal benefits. And then Moringa was the other one. Moringa didn't taste like awesome, but again, I really like the medicinal benefits. Everything else was kind of the really, really bitter stuff. I remember trying to just stomach it, but I can't see that being a consistent enough thing to drink. And I can't imagine having any sort of ailment that I thought, required or needed me to drink even a cup or two of that really bitter stuff. So I don't know if I'll ever have any of that stuff again. This one smells very, very herbal, a little smoky, almost like hickory wood. Sort of a old Western sort of smoky thing going on. Not like whiskey though, just like a smoky room or something. Gonna rinse this just to knock off any possible dust or whatever may be there. Yeah, now that the leaf is wet, it's almost a kind of a peppermint thing in the background, like very vaporous. I can't imagine I will spend much time smelling this thing, but it's not horrible. All right, so I'm going to go as long as I can possibly go on this hot brew. I want to quickly talk about some of the stuff I learned about the ginkgo and the phytochemicals and that sort of thing. The biggest one is glycoside, which was very interesting because glycoside bonds to sugars. And then typically in the body, those sugars then bind to poisons and things that you don't want, and then you excrete them out. The other thing was myostatin. Myostatin has a lot of studies done on it. They also did some animal studies, but supposedly it's an carcinogen is what I want to say, but that's not how it's spelled. Anti-carcinogen. Anyway, helps fight cancer. It's also a mutagen and something called a pro-oxidant. The other thing that they found was specific to ginkgo is a ginkgo side A, B, C, and all these sorts of things. Not a lot of those chemicals in the actual plant extract, but a lot of the studies basically said that, and here's the thing, at least the US websites, they always say that none of these studies, none of this information can really be used to really fight disease or anything. But then it also warns that taking this extract, drinking this tea, can lead to excessive bleeding. So what that tells me is that clearly the chemicals and everything in this plant do open up blood vessels, right? And that's the reason why traditionally this tea has been used for migraines and this sort of thing, because it dilates the blood vessels, and I think it dilates the blood vessels in the brain better than some other chemicals. Supposedly it helps with dementia as well, because it helps to strip calcium and stuff like that from the blood vessels. I think that when you think about dilating blood vessels, you think about the glycoside that bonds to sugars and stuff like that. And I've heard a lot of stuff over the years that talk about dementia really just being like a sugar problem, right? It makes sense that Ginkgo Biloba will be used for that thing, because it dilates the blood vessels and it strips some of the calcium and also takes some of the poisons and stuff like that out of the blood. So the cold brew tastes great. It really does. Like I said, sugar sweet, not bitter at all. It does kind of have an herbal flavor to it, but nothing bad. And it does kind of turn the water into, I won't necessarily call it a marine water, but I understand where that note comes from, because it is sort of an ocean water flavor. It's kind of salty, but not exactly ocean water, because ocean water is really salty. But it does kind of have that thing going on about it. All right, that has been long enough. I imagine that if I really want to brew this up and really get as much as I can out of it, it's probably best that I boil these leaves in a pot for a little while to just extract it as much as I can possibly extract. But as something that I'm adding to my, daily drink routine, I don't think that's necessarily was needed. This thing is quite dirty. There's a lot of plant material in there, but in this case, not horrible, because you do kind of want to eat a little bit of the leaf. So the hot brew is a tiny bit of I want to say a little bitter, but it's not bitterness. It's just that herbal flavor is heightened with the flavor, for sure. Based on the cold brew and what I've had out of this hot brew, I don't think there's anything else to really be gained from playing around with any sort of parameters here. I'm gonna brew up one more infusion. I do like this though. I don't know if there is a larger bag. I may go online and check. This one is 40 grams. I don't remember how much I paid for it. But if I can get like 100-gram bag, I'll definitely prefer that. And I can definitely see drinking through this pretty regularly. And I think I'll do the cold brew. Maybe if I ever do encounter some headache or something, which does not happen often, I could see trying to brew up a really hard brew of this, just to see if it can help. I definitely try to drink lots of water whenever I do encounter headaches, and so it kind of makes sense to do something like that with this. But I really do like the cold brew. I can very easily drink this, and it's good. It's really good. It's sugar sweet. I don't get any of that sweetness in the hot brew at all. It's all in the cold brew because the flavors are allowed to come out of the leaves slowly, and so you don't get that harsh herbal thing that you get with the hot brew. I mean, it's really good. All right. That was not long at all. You can see the color has changed pretty quick. It's only been maybe a minute, and I want to try to give it as long as I can here. I'm really curious too to see if the brew is a bit cleaner this time, or if it stays kind of muddy. All right, that's about all my patience will allow. Let's go ahead and see what we get here. And yeah, brew is still pretty muddy. The other thing that I've noticed is that the leaves are really tiny, and now that I know something about the Ginkgo Biloba tree, The leaves are these huge fan-shaped things. So let's see what we get here. Okay, so maybe, I mean, these are definitely, you can see, these are definitely smaller leaves. And I think maybe there's more chemicals in the smaller leaves than the larger leaves. Another thing that I read that I thought was really interesting, the chemicals that are in the leaves, some of the chemicals are, what's the word I'm looking for? They're poisons created by the plant to ward off predation, to ward off insects and things of that nature. So what happens is, when the leaves are damaged, some of the chemicals in the leaf turn and change into this thing that creates like a poison, so that other things don't want to eat it. Matter of fact, there's a butterfly that eats the leaves of the Ginkgo Biloba tree so that it can ingest some of that poison and to also avoid predation. So with that being said, the positive benefit of the leaf can only be had if the leaf is left undisturbed. Once it has been bitten into, once it has been torn with, once it has been chomped on, and I'm pretty sure the tree is releasing chemicals and things like that into the air to alert the other trees, right, of what's going on. It turns from this very positive chemical to a poisonous one. And so that's just another reason to me why it makes all the difference in the world to try to grow this stuff yourself if possible, because it appears that the best thing to do is to actually pick the leaf from the stem and allow it to wither and dry on its own, versus go through with the machine or just start whacking at the tree to pull off leaves. So it's lost the potency that the first infusion had, but now I'm getting a little bit of that sugar sweetness. Yeah. And it tastes very, very similar to the cold brew. It's just hot. So I'm not going to do that today, but I am really curious to see what happens if I were to put just a bunch of these, well, not a bunch, but a lot of leaves into a pot and just boil it really hard. I'm sure it's going to at first be sort of this harsh herbal thing, but maybe if I add enough water, it'll be this nice, soft, sugar sweet brew. So yeah, I mean, the hot brew on a second infusion tastes just like the cold brew. I really like this one. I really do. And I plan on continuing to drink this one for some time. From me to you, I holla.